Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Festivus for the rest of us. Welcome to RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Enter Holiday20 to get 20% off the rest of the month on speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this pre-Christmas Eve episode of Ask Dave, special 1 hour episode of Ask Dave. Dave Palumbo taking your questions, anything on training, supplementation, how to eat clean during this Christmas weekend. It is all up for discussion as we bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, it is about Christmas time and it is about 60 degrees out here in New York.
Yeah, I've been riding my bike almost every day. It's great. You know, there's not many bike riders out there, but when it gets really warm, like the 60-degree days, they're out there. But I've been biking even in the 39-degree days, and I have to say I'm loving it. Hopefully, the good weather will last through till my wife gives birth and to our son. But, I just want to get something off my chest here. And, I have a car, and like a lot of you guys have a car, and if you live in the East Coast, we have terrible weather and the roads get potholes in them. And I buy this every year, or whenever I lease my cars, I buy the road hazard warranty, which warranties the tire and the rim. It's $50 if you damage a rim or tire, and that's it. It's like your copay going to the doctor. I damaged a rim and tire severely on a terrible pothole about 2 weeks ago. I brought it into them, and now they're trying to charge me for the rim, and I'm beside myself. The rim is a $2,400 rim, but they're like, we'll only charge you $435. I said, well, look, I have a guarantee here from you that says if I get damage to my rim, you will pay for it. It will cost me $50. I don't understand why I'm being charged $450. I don't. It's either you charge me the whole $2,400, or you don't charge me anything. They said, well, the rim can hold air so that we don't cover it. All of a sudden, they have stipulations now that they never had. I said, there's a gouge out of the rim, and the rim is twisted. I said, it's unsafe to drive. Therefore, I have insurance, and you have to pay it. So I've been arguing back and forth with them. It got down to the point where I was so aggravated and my blood pressure was high. I said, fuck it, I'm just going to pay whatever they want me to pay. I wound up paying $230. Now, for the rim and tire. I get into the car, and I see the center cap on the rim is missing. And I said, well, where is it? They're like, well, it was kind of damaged. I said, well, isn't that part of the rim that I just paid for? No, that's separate. We'll give it to you at wholesale. Don't worry about it. I go to the service center, and they give me this little center cap. And I'm like, and there's a couple guys around there like, oh, that's going to be expensive. I'm like, yeah, it's a Mercedes. $18. I'm like, wow, that's the best deal I've gotten all freaking day at this freaking place. Then I go out to the car and I go to put the thing on, and I realize it's not the right one. That's the one for the regular cars. I have the AMG car. So I go back. I'm like, this is the wrong one. So he brings me the right one. It's $120. $120 for a piece of plastic, which is 50% of what I just paid to replace the rim and the tire. So I'm like, Pete, they're laughing their ass off, these guys. And I said, you know what? It goes back to the old adage my father said, if you want an expensive car, don't complain when you got to fix it. And that's my rant.
There you have it. I heard this entire phone conversation while Dave was in the office. It was pretty animated. It was actually kind of scary. It was one of those moments where, like, you hear somebody yelling over the phone, and sometimes you want to stick around because it's entertaining, but then it's so intimidating they actually want to leave the room. That was one of those times.
And it didn't even help.
You can join us on the Muscle Central Forum at RxMuscle.com. If you're watching us for the first time, our main forum is the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. That is where we have all our banter year-round, all our show coverage. That is the place to be if you are a serious fan of the bodybuilding world. You can join us live on our YouTube page. Right now, it is a party on our YouTube page. You can ask your questions on the chat box on the right side of the video screen. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, official_RxMuscle, or tweet your questions using hashtag AskDave. We're going to start on the Muscle Central Forum. Once again, RxMuscle.com, free to register, and we start with A. Rupton. Hi, Dave and Sid. This is my first question. I'm a huge fan, so I'll try to keep it brief. I've been a police officer for almost a decade now, and I have to say, I hate this show so bad, I'd rather be stuck riding double in my patrol car with Officer Farah for an entire 12-hour shift while having to listen to him tell me how great of a coach he is while he copies and pastes the same diet to 50 different clients, all while Dookie sits arrested in the backseat texting Jim Manning asking for his bill to be posted, and just before I finally finish my shift, I get a call to Palumbo's Pythons and Boa's studio where I get my arm bit off by the super fire diamond snake. And then he puts in parentheses, come on, it's got to win me some free Nitralize. It does. It does.
Absolutely.
A-Rupton, email me, sid@specynutrition.com. We have never had a winner that early in this show, but for the best I hate this show and for the best overall question, you get Nitralize pre-workout available, stim-free and caffeine-infused on Species.
And you know what, Sid? For the most entertaining question today, I'm going to give away a gym bag full of Species Nutrition samples. So, guys, start posting on Facebook, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, right now, because I'm giving away for the most entertaining question of the evening.
You're in the right place today. This is going to be the special hour-long episode of Fast Dave. Let's get to his question. My question is, I realize supplements are to be used to supplement the diet. However, for cost purposes, instead of using omega-3 eggs specifically for their fat content, could I use regular store-bought eggs and supplement with something like Omega-Lyze to make up for the EFA benefit? Should I see the same effects if I stuck with lean protein sources each meal and the majority of my fat content came from fish oil pills only?
You can use regular eggs. The fat content is the same. The reason I say use omega-3 eggs is because it's an easy way to replace unhealthy omega-6 fats with healthy omega-3 fats. Not so easy to go out and buy grass-fed beef or wild salmon and wild fishes are very expensive. So this is a simple way. If it's available in your supermarket, spend the extra $1, get the omega-3 eggs so you get the extra benefit. You don't have to. You should be taking an omega-3 and omega-6 supplement anyway, like Omega-Lyze, in addition to whatever you're taking. You don't have to take extra, though.
Let's go to our... Again, Dave, you got to check this out for yourself at some point. The YouTube channel is a party right now, and we have certain names that are they're hilarious. And we have Eugene Sando. Okay, great. We have a guy named Drunken Sessions. So when a guy named Drunken Sessions asks you a question, you kind of have to ask it. So let's go with his question. We'll jump to the YouTube channel. Question 1, how do compounds like trenbolone and nandrolone raise prolactin, and is it important to manage it while on cycle?
Well, anything that's 19-nortestosterone derived, which has a progesterone aspect to it, progesterone derivation aspect to it, tends to, for some reason, raise prolactin levels. I don't think anyone really knows why they raise prolactin levels. We could speculate as to why, but the 19-nortestosterones like Deca and Trenbolone have a way of raising prolactin, but not in everyone. That's the weird thing about it. So some people can take all the Deca and Tren they want and have no problems. That was always my case. And then other people take one shot of Deca and they can't get an erection because their prolactin is too high. So you really can't tell unless you go for blood work or symptomatically speaking. If you have the symptoms of it, take a prolactin inhibitor like Dostinex at a 0.5 milligram 2-3 times a week. If that doesn't work, then maybe Deca or Trenbolone is just not for you. Usually Deca raises prolactin way worse than Trenbolone because Trenbolone is so high in androgens anyway. It kind of has an overriding effect on the prolactin. But once again, a lot of people have problems with Deca, and then other people have none. I always loved that drug. It was one of my favorites, and I never had any prolactin issues with it.
Here's a good one from Jameki. I hate this show so much. I watch it to purge myself for all the sins I have ever committed. Let's go to Monstro on the Muscle Central Forum. I hate this show because I'm doing keto because of Dave Palumbo, and in this phase, I hate everything and everyone. Danger, no carbs. I have weak areas like calves I try to improve. Can I get results from IGF-LR3 during pre-contest prep, or is the only way Synthol? Can it be used safely?
You're not going to get localized growth from injecting IGF-1, so just put that out of your head. Likewise, when you're dieting, you really don't want to be taking anything that causes an insulin-like effect on the body because you're going to drop your blood sugar. So I always tell people, stick with the IGF-1 in the off-season, stick with growth hormone pre-contest. Having said that, the second part of the question, Synthol.
Synthol, yeah.
If you want to... site enhance a specific muscle where you want to get immediate volumization of that muscle, increasing of size, nothing is better than like synthol products. Obviously, Chris Clark's synthesized pump and pose is the original, and I would say probably the most potent product out there. A lot of people, some people don't like it only because it leaves you a little sore, and then probably the second best product out there on the market with serious science behind it, because most of the products have no science behind it, is the painless pumps. And I sell both of those at DavePalumbo.com because I believe in both of those products as being effective at causing localized growth. Those are the only things that are going to do anything. You can inject all the GH, IGF-1, MGF, follistatin inhibitors, all myostatin inhibitors. You can inject all you want into the muscle, nothing's staying there. As soon as you take a shot into a muscle, it gets into the bloodstream. So put that out of your head.
Let's go to THC ice cream. I hate this show so much, I'd rather take John Romano's sketchy pre-workout advice literally and shot up some heroin just before doing a 600-pound squat on no carbs while wearing high heels, all this without life insurance. Very nice. Is there a limit to how much protein the body is able to predispose for actual muscle building within a realistic time frame? For example, if my body is only able to use 20 grams of the protein I consume every 3 hours for muscle repair and growth, is consistent ingestion of that amount enough to optimize my ability to gain muscle?
Well, I think we have to preface and start by saying, look, everyone is variable. It would be like saying, does a mouse need as much protein as a rat? Does a rat need as much protein as a kangaroo? All humans can assimilate various amounts of protein at different rates and depending on their genetic capabilities. Some people could eat less protein and assimilate more of it efficiently. And I know guys that can drink beer and grow muscle, for God's sake. But then most people, when we talk about protein suggestions and requirements, we're talking about most people, not the genetic anomalies. So if I'm going to make a statement to most people, I find that most people can assimilate anywhere from 25 to 50 grams of protein, depending on how big they are. Obviously, if you're a bigger bodybuilder, you're going to need more protein per meal, because you have more muscle to repair, okay? If you've taken 600 grams of protein, you only weigh 150 pounds, obviously your body doesn't need all that protein. Whether you can assimilate it or not, your body, if it doesn't need the protein for muscle repair, it's going to burn the calories up as energy or store them as fat, even though it might be a very inefficient process. So based on what you weigh, I think 1.5 grams per pound that you weigh divided over 5 or 6 meals a day is the best, I guess you could say, generalization I can make about what the ideal amount of protein would be.
We now go to our YouTube channel. Again, if you're not already following us, subscribe on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. That is where we have all our shows, all our live with interviews. Of course, Muscle in the Morning, which is our daily news show, 5-minute news show brought to you by Iron Mag Labs. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's go to Eternity. Question: talk about Arnold Classic 20, and I guess he means to say 2016. Predictions, opinions on Kai, Cody, and Compton.
Well, I think right off the bat, you'd have to assume that Kai Green is the favorite. He's the guy who came in second at the Olympia for innumerable years already. Even though he skipped this year's Olympia, I still have to, if I'm going to put my money on anyone, it's going to be Kai Green. I think the guy who could upset, the whole lineup is Justin Compton. He's the most dangerous because he's got that fresh young muscle. He's hungry. He's on his way up. He gets in terrific conditioning. I can see if Kai comes in a little off, Compton can win the show. I have no doubt about that. And, obviously Cedric McMillan, no one is mentioning either. He's a very dangerous guy in that lineup. He's a guy who can win that show on any day of the year, assuming he comes in well. So I don't think that Cody Montgomery is going to be a factor. I think that he could probably surprise people and possibly make that top 5 or 6 if he comes in ultra shredded and the other guys come in a little off. But I think he's going to have size issues and he's going to have muscle maturity issues. But like Jay Cutler said, it's going to be exciting just to see him in the lineup because he's the young guy up there. He's only 21 years old.
Let's go to BS431980. I hate this show worse than Chris Aceto's Playgirl Centerfold. Dave, were you aware that exists? No, I'm just kidding. Dave, how about your best Mike or Ray Menser story?
I wasn't really in the realm of, interacting with Mike and Ray back in the day. They were kind of before my time, and as I was coming up, I could tell you the one story, the one time, it really was only one time I encountered Mike Mentzer at all. I was in the parking lot of Gold's Gym in Venice. I was out there, I guess you could say, visiting. And I must have weighed 315 pounds. I was at one of my biggest, moments in my career. And Steve Neese, if anyone remembers him, used to write a column in Muscle Mag called Muscle Beach. He used to, whenever I come to town, he'd grab me and pull me in the parking lot, and he'd take pictures of me. And he was taking pictures of me outside, and I was ridiculously big. And Mike Mentzer pulled up. He had this old Volare station wagon. He pulls up. He gets out. He's all disheveled and everything like that. And this is when his hair was all crazy. And he was heading toward the gym. And he stopped short, like a cartoon. He turns around and he looks at me, and he starts circling me. Oh man, this guy's a freak. Who are you? You're a freak. What a freak. What a freak. He was like almost like going into a seizure. He was so fucking excited. This guy's a fucking freak. I never saw him before. It's a freak. And I guess he didn't read the magazines, but he went completely nuts, and he gave me so many good compliments, and I felt so good about myself after that because this is when he was training Dorian Yates in the high intensity training style, heavy duty, I think he called it. And he was training a couple of different bodybuilders, but he was so complimentary to me. And then he ran. He's like, I got to go train someone. And he ran into the gym, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him after that. But I said, you know what? If Mentzer acknowledged me, I must be doing something right.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. This is the special holiday episode, 1 hour of Dave Palumbo answering your questions, diet, training, supplementation. We just got a question on the Arnold, so IFBB pros, competitions. It is all out on the table. Some questions lining up now on how to eat clean during this Christmas holiday season. Let's go back to our YouTube channel and go to Tree Hugga. Hugga, kind of like how Mike Francesa would spell Hugga, for those of you who know Mike Francesa. How long should I rest a partial pec tear? Can I train legs after a couple of days?
The only thing you have to really be careful with the pec tear is, you can do anything you want for your legs, is holding on. Because if you're going to train legs, you have to hold on to the leg press machine or the squat bar. You can't hold on tight because you can dislodge that pec tendon. So what I would do is, and I know it sucks, I would take 10 days off from the gym. Do nothing. Just rest. Then go back and start doing things real light, like leg extensions, like curls, in or out, or abductor machine. Maybe sit on like a leg press machine, not a leg press sled, and start doing light, presses with your legs. And you can do a lot of reps, and you can do a lot of sets if you want to make up for it. And then as that pec tendon starts to knit and the doctor says it's getting stronger, now you can start, holding on with one hand and start doing more stuff. The first 7 to 10 days, you got to rest, and I know it sucks. I know you want to go to the gym, you go crawling out of your skin, but that to me is probably the most prudent thing, because if you re-tear the pec, you're going to want to kill yourself. Look, I already went through 4 surgeries on my quad, and you know what? I'm going to need another one probably in another month. I just found out it looks like I have a partial tear of that same quad again. So you don't want to have to do these surgeries again. It's a nightmare. I promise you. You do not want to do it again.
Let's go to Victor Nielsen. Sid, I got no hate for this show, but I would love for you to ask Dave what he thinks the best way for a tall guy will, I'm trying to see what he's trying to ask here. A tall guy will longer biceps to get them big. So I guess what you're trying to ask him, he wants to know for a tall guy, right, bigger biceps, low reps compound, high reps isolation. What's your best advice?
I was one of these guys. I'm not over 6 foot, but I have long arms. And I would watch guys like Lee Priest and Mike Yablon and all these guys with the short arms doing these crazy, barbell curls and getting these huge arms. And I was like, it's just not working for me. My arms just weren't growing from barbell curls, even dumbbell curls to a certain degree. I wasn't really feeling it that much. I would feel a lot of shoulder pulling and pain, and I felt like I was cheating a lot. So I said, you know what? I had gotten a little arthroscopic surgery on one of my shoulders to remove an impingement. And I was coming back slowly, and I started with cable curls and all cable stuff. I figured, well, that was safe. And I was feeling these tremendous pumps, and I felt like my arms were really growing. And then I talked to Vince Taylor, and I've told this story innumerable times. And Vince Taylor only did cable work for his arms, basically, back in the day. He felt that was the most impressive I guess, pumps he got, and he felt he got the best results from that. So I started doing all cable work, everything unilateral, one arm at a time cable work. And you know what? All of a sudden, I was feeling it in my arms. For the first time in my lifting career, I actually felt pumps. I actually felt strain in my arm, and felt like it was isolated to just those muscles. And before I knew it, my arm started growing. So if you have a long arm and the typical traditional, barbell work and dumbbell stuff is not working for you, try cable stuff for biceps and triceps.
Let's go to Tiago Alves on our YouTube channel. Hi, Dave and Sid. I'd like to know what you think about, he's got two questions here, so we'll ask the first one first. What do you think of the use of HCG 500 UI every 7 days during a steroid cycle?
It's not going to do anything for the cycle in terms of effectiveness. It might keep your testicles working. I mean, if you're trying to get someone pregnant, I guess that's probably of a benefit. Some people, when they're on cycle, find that their sex drive is not that good. I don't know who they are. I always had a crazy sex drive on a cycle. But if you're one of those people, a little HCG once a week might help that situation as well. So once again, I always give the analogy of taking HCG while you're on a testosterone cycle is kind of like taking a handful of sand and throwing it on the beach and thinking you're going to see more sand. It's not going to happen. So it's a very small amount of testosterone your body will produce. But, if, like I said, if it's a sex drive issue or you're trying to keep yourself fertile, then that might be something you want to implement.
Let's go to his second question. I could say that I hate this show, but that would be a lie. Honesty, we like that. What is your opinion on not doing carbs in your rest days in a bulking phase?
Your body will need carbohydrates to fuel itself, okay, whether you're training or not. Obviously, while you're training, you need a little bit more. But truth be told, you probably only expend about 40 grams of carbs while you're doing a 1-hour weight training session. So, not eating carbs on the days that you're not training is really not doing any benefit for you. I say find out what your maintenance amount of carbs is, eat a little bit more than that in an off-season scenario, and you can do that every day consistently. Because if you don't eat carbs one day out of the week, you're going to feel terrible on that day, and then you're going to wind up binging anyway. So once again, whenever people start to do like quirky stuff or weird stuff like that, it always backfires because the body will always rebound in some way and make you get those carbs in one way or another. So instead, you won't eat carbs 2 of the days out of the week, and then on the seventh day, you'll eat all those same carbs in one day because you'll be so hungry. So I would say don't restrict carbs on off days.
Let's go to Brian Carroll. What can I use for a PCT, or would you recommend a site to grab, 8X, Nova, etc.?
This is, like I always say, is probably the most answered question I always go through. Post-cycle therapy, PCT. I like to start with 2 weeks of HCG, usually at 2,000 units every third day for at least 5 to 7 shots. Then, as soon as I'm done with that last shot, I'll go to a Clomid at 50 to 100 milligrams per day for another 2 to 3 weeks. And then usually I come off, or have my athletes come off for 4 to 6 weeks after that on nothing, basically. Some people like to stay on a little bit of Arimidex, 0.5 milligram, 2-3 times a week, just to keep estrogen levels at bay. I have most of my clients use Testolize, which is my natural testosterone boosting agent. But what it does is it blunts estrogen production, flushes extra estrogen out of the body, blunts DHT production, which ultimately raises testosterone, and then it has some natural testosterone boosters as well. To me, you implement that while you're on the HCG Clomid, an off period, and I guarantee you'll keep your testosterone levels high.
Let's go to John Effer, teen bodybuilder. Dave, do you prefer pinning Tren A every day or every other day? Any differences?
I think every other day is enough. Trenbolone, while it's most potent probably the first 36 hours, it's still around enough, and it's a very strong anabolic steroid. So I think every day is too much. You're going to go a little nutty, psychologically speaking, because it does raise androgens really high. I have guys do it every day the last week before a show, and people get nuts from the stuff. So I think every other day is adequate.
Again, you're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, the special holiday edition of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Again, for the best overall question of the show, the best I hate this show, you get neutralized by Species Nutrition. The most entertaining question of the show for this episode only. Dave is going to pack a Species gym bag full of Species goodies and ship it out to you. We continue now on our YouTube channel. Go to R2 Truth 18. Dave, any tips for a shoulder injury?
Well, that's a very broad question. I don't know what you really did to your shoulder, but usually when people injure their shoulder, it's usually a rotator cuff strain to a certain degree. I would obviously ice it at night, but I would also start doing the rotator cuff type exercises. You can find those online. You really want to strengthen the muscles because even if you tear a small piece of it, it's not the end of the world. You can strengthen the rest of it. Obviously, you want to take joint repair supplements, something like Arthrolyze that's very high in glucosamine and MSM, and which Arthrolyze is at least 4 grams of each ingredient per day, every single day. You want to take enough vitamins and minerals, enough vitamin C, at least 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. You want to take a good multi-mineral multivitamin, all chelated minerals obviously being the most absorbable. We have a product, obviously, V-Mineralize. You guys can implement as well with that. But if you do that, I always tell people, if you go to the supermarket and buy unflavored collagen or unflavored Jell-O, basically what it is, you throw that in your shakes. Just take a packet dry and throw it in your protein shakes. It has no taste. That'll also give your body the raw materials to start repairing that joint and connective tissue. Once again, hard to tell what you did to your shoulder, but given all those modalities I just gave you, if you hit those all, you're going to repair at maximum speed.
We're going to go now to our Instagram page. Our handle is @official_RxMuscle. And we start off with Ricky the Problem. I hate this show so much, I would rather have Martha Stewart give me stock tips than listen to this show. Your opinion on Rich Piana's stack?
A lot of people are always asking me this lately. And you know what? I saw Rich Piana's steroid cycle. And you know what? Let's put the orals aside because I'm not a big orals fan. I think he takes a little too many orals, and I think they're very liver toxic. I don't really condone that. But the injectables are not outrageous. I think that, once again, I don't know if I would take it at 40-something years old, but for a bodybuilder, I think that's a reasonable stack injectable-wise. Once again, I'm not a huge orals fan because those are the things that will do damage to your liver short term. Remember, the quicker something is metabolized, steroidally speaking, in the body, the more stress it puts on the liver. The more strain on the liver, okay, that ultimately will start damaging the liver cells. And once again, what happens inside the liver is you get inflammation, okay, because the liver cells are working too hard, they get damaged. The inflammation restricts the biliary ducts that go through the liver and drain into the gallbladder. Basically, it's the drain of the way your liver gets rid of toxins. And when they can't drain out, they go backwards into the liver and cause the liver to swell. Ultimately, that leads to scar tissue, being laid down in there. And then you have permanent scarring and damage to the liver, which makes it non-functional in that portion of the liver. So we want to make sure the liver drains well and doesn't get that inflammation going on. Stay away from orals and fast-acting compounds. Make sure you take your milk thistle that's very high in silymarin. That will help also drain those liver ducts out.
So we're going to go to our Facebook page, and we have one real friend of the show named Rob Starr. Now, Rob Starr brings an element of creativity to the show every week in the form of poetry, right? One week he'll have a Jack and Jill poem. One week he'll have something, and it's always relevant to the topics, to the inside humor of this show and of this channel. So this time, he figured he'd put a little holiday twist on it. So let's see if I can nail this one correctly. Big barbells, lift them every day. Oh, what fun it is to drink a shake of species ice away. Dashing through the gym on a Monday chest arms day. Heading to the bench we go, flexing all the way. Feeling like a king, the bar is into flight. What fun it is to lift and scream a grunting song tonight. I thought you were going to finish off with like a George Farah joke or something like that.
I wanted to have the jingle bells to shake with you.
Man.
I wish you would have told me. I would have brought my bells in.
But you know what? Well done, Rob Starr. Now, Rob Starr, Dave, again, we give away Neutralized Species pre-workout for the best I Hate the Show, for the best overall question. And in general, he brings very entertaining content. But he's in Canada, Dave. We got to do something for him. What do you suggest? We're going to give him a shout out on Instagram, but what else could we do for our good friend Rob Starr?
I thought it would be more relevant to the show. It was a nice gesture, but I didn't think it was his best work. So I'm just going to give him a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, salute, and say try it better next time, because I did my Twas the Night Before Christmas. If you remember last year, with included Bleckman and the whole industry involved in there. So I need a little bit more inside humor. I think that's what people are looking for.
So you know what? If you're watching for the first time, especially on our YouTube channel, the more you watch us, the more you're going to understand the inside humor and the more you're going to be able to contribute. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, we talk bodybuilding here. We give you news. We report news. Obviously, you get Dave's opinion, his analysis. You get Chris Aceto and John Romano and some of the smartest bodybuilding gurus in the entire industry. But you get the humor. You get some of the stuff here you're not going to get anywhere else. So again, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, subscribe now, and that way you're going to be able to follow everything that it is that we do, everything from Muscle in the Morning, which is Monday through Friday, including a weekend edition, this show, which is every Wednesday, generally at 4 p.m. We have Live With, which is our one-on-one interview show, which features some of the biggest A-listers of the entire bodybuilding industry. That and a whole lot more. Of course, Iron Debate, which is our CNN Crossfire-style debate show with topics across the bodybuilding industry. Let's get to Rob Starr's question. Again, he had the poetry, but let's get to his actual question. With the amount of IFBB pros these days, do you think inactive IFBB pro statuses should expire after a certain amount of time coming off competition?
Absolutely not. I think that once you've earned that pro card, it is yours for life. Just like Dexter Jackson said, people can say what they want about him. He will always be Mr. Olympia. You can't take that title away from him. I don't think you should be able to take the IFBB pro status away from anyone. Maybe Jocelyn Peltier, but that's about it.
Let's go to Cal L Fitness. Is it necessary to do a carb refeed day while on keto? I have yet to do a refeed or cheat meal in 10 weeks. My strength grows and I'm leaning down as well.
I would do at least one carb meal a week, because if you don't stimulate insulin release, and I've talked about this many, many times, you don't maximize the conversion rate of T4 or inactive thyroid hormone, also known as thyroxine, into the active form, which is known as triiodothyronine or T3. If T4 to T3 conversion, inactive to active thyroid hormone, slows because insulin levels are low, excessively low, you're going to slow your metabolism down. So once a week, even if you don't like to eat a junky cheat meal, you got to spike insulin. You got to have a higher carb feeding. At least, I would say for men, at least 150 grams. For women, at least 75 grams to do that. Now, the only time I might not do that is when we get really close to a show toward the end and I'm trying to wring out every last bit of fat out of a person. And even then, when I hit an impediment, I'll say, go eat 35 grams of carbs or go have a piece of pizza or something like that. Because once again, the body is smart, and when it catches on to what's going on, it slows that conversion rate of T4 to T3.
We are going to step aside for a couple of minutes. When we return, more of your questions right here on Ask Dave, RxMuscle.com.
I'm Jonathan Ballou, and I'm the training director for the ski and snowboard schools of Aspen Snowmass. My job demands that I ski hard every day. To keep my joints healthy, I take Arthrolyze Elite. Species Nutrition. Join the evolution.
Hey, it's your boy Big Baby Miller here, #1 heavyweight prospect in America, national kickboxer, K1 and Glory superstar. Listen, I'm here to talk to you about an awesome product, #1 sponsor athlete with Species Nutrition, and it's my favorite product right here, Isolize Protein. I'm telling you, when your body's feeling hurt and you need a reboost, Isolize is the product to go. I love cinnamon donut, and I'm telling you right now, the best thing I love about this product is easy to mix, on the go. Isolize is the way to go. It's your boy Big Baby Miller. I'm the baddest motherfucker in America. What species are you?
Why cut back?
It doesn't pay.
Why cut back? Why cut back?
This is four-time Miss Olympia Jay Cutler. You're watching RxMuscle.com.
Welcome back into this special holiday edition of Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Festivus to the rest of us. And of course, that's not the only religious holiday we are celebrating. Of course, Star Wars was released this past weekend. Dave, you had the opportunity to see it on opening weekend.
Yes, and I have my lightsaber here. I didn't bring it to the movie theater with me, though. I promise you. All right. Yeah, I went, and I actually, I tried to find some Star Wars fans to go, and Johnny wasn't here. He was in Puerto Rico, so I dragged Amanda with me, and she has never seen any of the Star Wars movies. So I had to give her like a brief synopsis, and of course she kind of understood. But J.J. Abrams is such a genius. He's the director of the newest Star Wars, that he made it so that regular people could watch it, even if they never seen a Star Wars, and still enjoy the movie. Obviously, if you're a Star Wars fan and you've seen all the previous movies, you get the inside jokes and everything like that and what's going on, all the inside stuff. But I enjoyed it. I didn't think, the script was not that deep. It was more of a setup movie for the next couple of movies. But I enjoyed it thoroughly to see all the characters that I grew up with when I was a kid watching. And, once again, J.J. Abrams is a genius, and I think they picked the right director for the movie.
Of course, Dave is going to have his full Star Wars analysis video coming out soon, so you all have an opportunity to go see the movie. It will be chock full of spoiler alerts, so go see it and then watch Dave's analysis later on. We go back to our Instagram page. We will, for those watching on YouTube, we'll be taking your questions. Let's go back to the Instagram handle again, official_RxMuscle. Let's go to TJ Big Mac. Hi, Dave and Sid. Merry Christmas to the RX Muscle crew. I'm in Australia and your show sucks so bad it can't even send me a Mac nut oil or Nitrolize for the best I hear. Well, you know what, Dave? We get a lot of questions from Australia. A lot of people ask us where can they get species nutrition in Australia, and our good friends Chris and Renee Schmidt have a store, Mass Nutrition,
in Penrith.
Which is in Penrith, correct. So if you have any questions, you're looking for species in Australia, they are the ones to go to. Chris and Renee Schmidt, you can find them on Facebook, Chris Schmidt. It is Mass Nutrition in Penrith, Australia. Let's go to his question. The most effort, all right, question. While on keto and prepping for a show, how would you go about using insulin? I'm assuming it would be very risky due to the way you need carbs to use it. Also, I like to have 150 grams to 200 grams of broccoli or green beans with 2 or 3 of my protein fats meals. Carbs still are kept under the 40-gram mark. Do you think that it would put me out of ketosis considering most of the carbs are fibrous?
I don't think you'll be out of ketosis, and everyone's a little different. You'll know if you're coming out of ketosis, you'll feel groggy. So you're probably in ketosis with the broccoli. And once again, I don't know what your metabolism is like. Taking insulin while you're on a ketogenic diet is foolish, though, because why would you take something that is going to lower your blood sugar when you're not eating any carbs to begin with? You're not eating carbs. Your brain's in ketosis, burning fat as a fuel source. Your blood sugar is stable because the brain is not glomming up sugar from the blood. Now you're going to take insulin and lower your blood sugar. You're going to feel terrible. So once again, don't try to do two things simultaneously. You cannot grow and diet at the same time. I know some people put muscle on while they diet because they're genetic freaks or for whatever the case. Usually I find the clients that I have that put muscle on while they're dieting are the ones that eat terribly in the off season. Akeem Williams comes to mind. He hardly eats in the off season. So then when he diets, he's eating 6 meals a day. He actually puts muscle on. But most people don't fit into that category. Don't try to put muscle on while you're dieting. Taking insulin while on any diet is probably silly because insulin is a fat storage hormone. But especially when you're on a no-carb diet, you certainly don't want to put insulin into the mix.
Let's go to Chicken Cutlet. This show sucks worse than the naked old guys in gym locker rooms that start conversations and you want to laugh at them and then throw up. Well done. Anyway, can I immediately after fasted cardio eat, say, a protein bar that has carbs and go right into a mild weight training routine, or is this not recommended?
So you want to do cardio first, then do weights?
Yes.
You could do that. Probably rather than a bar, probably a shake would be better. Something that's really rapidly assimilated, like a whey protein isolate with like a high molecular weight carbohydrate. Some people do like to do cardio first thing, and then do the weights. I personally, tell people to eat before you leave the house, have a shake, go to the gym, do your weights, then do your cardio because you're in a nice depleted state again, and then go home and have your post-workout shake or whatever your meal might be. That's a way better way to do it. But if you're going to go and do cardio first, like some people, let's say I want to bike first and then I want to go to the gym. So I would bike, come home, have a shake, go to the gym. That's how you do it.
Interesting question here from Real Young Kobe Bryant. Hey, Dave, I watched a video of Paul Dillette a few days ago and I was shocked about his size and symmetry. Awesome looking body. Who is the real freak? Ramy versus Marcus Rule versus Paul Dillette. Who would win in that competition and why? And of course, the Dillette know how to pose and present his physique. Seems to me that the athletes nowadays have forgot to pose on stage. So I guess it's a two-part question. What do you think?
Paul Dillette was one of the biggest freaks who ever competed. People forget about that. And it was because he was so horrible at presenting himself on stage. He could barely breathe. I don't know if it was he had asthma, he said, because I spent a lot of time with him because we were both with Metrex together for the end of his career, also the end of my Metrex contract. And, I mean, the guy was symmetrically perfect. He got in really good condition. From what I understand in the gym, he was the weakest trainer of all time, but he just grew muscle. He was another genetic freak. But and he won a couple shows in his day. I saw him win Night of Champions. He won a couple of the smaller pro shows of the day, and he always placed top 5, at all the big shows. He just couldn't present himself. So, I think that Ramy has more potential than Paul Dillette. I think at the peak of both their careers, I think Dillette wins. But I think right now, the way Ramy's progressing, if he keeps getting better, and I know he's working with Aceto, they're concentrating exclusively on the Olympia this year. They won't be doing any other shows. I think Ramy's more deadly.
Well, let's go back to our YouTube channel. Again, if you're watching for the first time, you can subscribe, and you will never miss any of our videos and shows. Go to Troy Penge. What are your thoughts on 1-andro and 4-andro products?
I'm not a big fan of these pro-hormone derivative type products. I think they're DHEA products. Once again, if you're going to use those products, you might as well use real anabolic steroids at that point. I mean, if that's the edge you're looking for, if you're saying to yourself, man, I'll do anything to grow muscle, you're better off just finding a good source of anabolics and using those. They're way safer. It's a sketchy area, and I know it almost seems ridiculous because one day these things are legal, the next day they're illegal. As soon as they turn illegal, everyone wants them. So I think that's just human nature. We want what we can't have. It's the old Woody Allen expression. But I'm not a huge fan of them.
Drunken Sessions wants to know, Dave, will your supplements be available at the newly opened Boca Nutrition store in Delray, Florida?
I don't know. If they want to carry them, I'd be more than happy to provide them. Like I said, I would love everyone to carry every one of my products everywhere. I think that they have a place in the right customer's, refrigerator or cabinet, so to speak. People who are looking for high quality, multivitamin, multiminerals, obviously essential fatty acids, good high quality whey isolates, and precision type nutrition. I think that we would be great if they want to carry it. I'll be more than happy to provide them.
Let's go. Drunken Sessions everywhere today. What do you think about running testosterone at a higher dose in comparison to running it lower and stacking other compounds with it?
If you're looking to maximize muscle gains, you want to do a threshold of 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week. That was what I found worked ideally with the least side effects, and then stack anabolics on top of that. Doing higher anabolics, less testosterone is not going to give you the better results. Plus, most anabolics, have side effects associated with them on their own. People don't realize when you raise the amount of anabolics like Decas and Trenbolones and Equipoise to super high levels, over 1,000 milligrams per week, you get side effects that they say don't exist. In other words, Trenbolone doesn't aromatize, or Deca doesn't really, cause hair loss. But when you start raising the amounts over these threshold amounts, you get these side effects, okay? Because they convert to other compounds. I don't know how they do it, what the science is behind it, but I see side effects from them that you shouldn't be seeing. So once again, testosterone should be your base, and then the anabolic should be peppered in there to augment the testosterone.
Let's go to It Sick. Dave, I pinned 250 mg testosterone and took 50 mg anadrol only once and stopped immediately because I decided gear wasn't for me. Do I need to take anything, or am I good to stay completely off?
Yeah, I think you're fine. I think if you only took one dose of it, I don't think you're going to have to take a PCT or any kind of replenish your natural production. I doubt you suppressed yourself at all.
Let's see here. Can't lie. This is from Mark Walters. Sid, Dave, can't lie. Love this show. Dave, your opinion on training first thing in the morning fasted with just BCAAs and caffeine pre-workout. Can you still build muscle training this way?
We just had a similar question to that. I believe, and I've read a lot of literature, number one, you take BCAAs in the morning, it's such a small dosage, it's not going to do anything. Your body needs, glucose in the morning. It needs something to sustain it energy-wise. You don't want your body breaking down muscle tissue to get those amino acids to convert them to glucose in the morning. You don't want that to happen. And that will happen to a certain degree. Now, your body will mobilize some glucose from the glycogen stores. That's certainly going to happen as well. But from all the literature I've read and just anecdotal evidence, when you go to the gym on an empty stomach and you train, I don't care if you're sipping on BCAAs or not, you're going to cannibalize some muscle. Always have a meal or shake before you go do weights. That's just common sense at this point.
Let's go to, actually, before I ask the next question, Dave, we're getting a lot of debate here as to whether Jay Cutler would ever attempt another comeback. Please comment.
We'll never see Jay Cutler on a stage again. I can successfully and vehemently say that right now. After talking to him in the last interview we did with him at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, he's done. He's of the mindset now. I can see how he switched because it happened to me at one point too. I was done. He's basically just content on and Jay. Look, Jay loves to make money. He doesn't need any more money, but he loves to make money. So he'll work his ass off. He goes and travels like almost every day of the year to different places to promote his product line, and that's what he does. And that's where he's focusing his attentions and his energies now. And I think it's a smart move on his part. He's got nothing to prove. He's 4-time Mr. Olympia. He's got tons of wisdom. He's a good-looking guy. He's got his health. Smart move on his part.
Let's go to Andrew Stewart. Hello from Scotland. Is dextrose a good energy substance for the gym?
It's not bad. Dextrose is sugar. It's a simple sugar. It's a disaccharide, 2 sugar molecules together. I'm not a big believer in sugar, to be honest with you. I don't know what you're using it for. Prior to going to the gym, I like to eat complex carbs, about, a half hour to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour before with my protein meals. If I'm going to drink something in the gym, I guess a little dilute dextrose wouldn't be terrible if you really need something. I used to sip sometimes on a Gatorade. More recently, I sip on a coconut water because I think it's a better source of electrolytes as well if I really feel I need it. But usually, if I'm fueled up with a good pre-workout, meal, shake, and I've had maybe my pre-workout neutralized, I don't need anything. I'm going to get through my workout fine. As a matter of fact, I took my pre-workout, the neutralized, prior to bike riding the other day because I had cleaned some fish tanks and it was gotten late and I hadn't eaten anything. So I just did the pre-workout and I got on that bike and I had the best workout of my life. So, once again, you don't really need anything during the workout as much as you might think. A lot of it's more psychological than anything. You want to stay well hydrated, obviously, but that's all you got to worry about. And then after you're done training, you have your post-workout shake or you can just do a meal.
Let's go. Now we're getting the same debate about Ronnie Coleman. All right. Style X wants to know, well, first of all, he says that he hates his show so bad he'd rather see ass pictures of Jimmy the Bull, and not Michelle Lewin, of course. Any tips or methods against hair loss? I've given a lot of my tips out. I deal with I battle hair loss, as I like to say. Or maybe I embrace hair loss, But no, I have started taking finasteride, which is a DHT or 5-alpha reductase blocker. It blocks the conversion of testosterone into DHT, which is what's responsible for hair loss. I've been taking that for over 10 years now, maybe 12 years. I've been taking a finasteride at 2.5 milligrams a day. It seems to have kept my hair loss at bay. In other words, I haven't grown any hair back, but I haven't lost any more hair, which is fine with me. I can deal with that. I think that's probably the most important thing you can do. Unfortunately, most hair loss is genetic. I mean, look at guys like Dorian Yates. They got a full head of hair. He took as many anabolics, if not more, than everyone else out there. So hair loss is genetic. Anabolics can speed it up a little bit, but unfortunately, your genetics are what your genetics are.
I've done some hair club for men stuff, not really hair club for men, hair grafts surgeries before. It helped a little bit fill in the front. I mean, if you have the good donor hair, you can do that as well. We're a vain society. What can I say? We all want to keep our hair as long as possible. I'm waiting for the day when they have stem cell treatments where they're just going to inject your scalp with stem cells and they're just going to grow new hair. I guarantee it's on the way. Probably when my son is going to have to need hair, more hair in his head, it'll be available to him. I guarantee within the next 10 to 15 years.
Let's go back to our Instagram page and check in with Petros F1991. Dave, can you give us your thoughts on training to failure every set versus training a couple of reps shy of failure? What's the best for hypertrophy? Thanks.
You always want to push as much as you can to a certain degree. If you're pushing beyond the point of safety, when you're lifting, in other words, you're sacrificing form just to get that extra rep or two out. I think that's dangerous, and that's going to leave you more likely to be injured. I always push to the point of when the muscle couldn't do the work anymore. So if I'm bench pressing, for instance, when I had to start cheating to move the weight or I couldn't get the weight up, keeping good form with my chest raised up high and my elbows out to the side and using impeccable form, that's when the set's over. Sometimes it was at 4 reps, sometimes it was at 6 reps, sometimes it was at 8 reps. Very rarely, once in a while, I would do a couple force reps if I had someone spotting me I trusted to push me through a little bit extra. But by and far, when I failed, when my muscle couldn't lift the weight using good form, that was the end of the set for me.
Let's stick with our Instagram page and go to Micah or Mika BB. How long can it take to regain the muscle mass you've lost during a contest season?
I'm not sure why you would lose the muscle. I'm assuming you mean when you go off cycle, if you lose a little muscle. I mean, usually when you go back on, within 3 to 6 weeks, everything's back. Usually it's quicker than that. If you eat right and train right and you take the right micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, essential fats, you shouldn't really lose that much. You might deflate a little bit because remember, when you take anabolic steroids, you produce a lot of extra red blood cells, which gives you that crazy pump in the vascularity. And then after you're off for about a month or two, you start losing those red blood cells because they die off and you don't really get the extra ones again. So you feel deflated. You really shouldn't lose muscle. I never really lost a lot of muscle mass when I would come off because I ate so well. I made sure I slept. I trained hard. The problem is people go off cycle and they don't do anything. They don't train. They don't eat right. They miss meals. And then they wonder why they lose everything. It's not because you're off the drugs. It's because you're off your game. You're off your mental game. You got to continue to be more neurotic when you're off about training and resting and eating.
Let's go to Until the End X. Dave, I'm 20 years old and suffer from low testosterone. Was given every test and saw an endocrinologist, but they did not treat me. I still suffer many of the symptoms every day, and they can be tiring. My question was if there was anything I could do to help my levels come back naturally, any supplements or diet strategy specifically.
I'm not saying this just to plug my own product, but I truly believe for someone like a 20-year-old, a natural product like Testalize is ideal. Because a lot of times, youngsters produce enough testosterone, they just convert so much of it to estrogen and DHT that their test levels are just low. But they're not low because they're not producing enough testosterone. They're low because they're converting too much of it to other hormones. A product like Testalize will blunt the conversion of estrogen, will blunt the conversion to DHT, and will naturally enhance your own production. I think that's an ideal supplement to start with. See how that works. Then get your blood work measured and see if it works. Then great, stay on it. It's something you can take all the time. There's nothing toxic in there. There's nothing you have to cycle off of. There's no drugs in there. And then your problem is solved. But that's what I would see. In addition, and another thing, when you go for blood work, don't only have your testosterone and free testosterone checked, have your DHT levels checked, have your estrogen levels checked, have your cortisol levels checked, so you can see what these other hormones are doing as well.
Let's go to Steve185. I hate this show, but not as much as Dave hates the "do I have to take 10 tablets a day" question. I'm on a keto diet. My levels of ketones fluctuate from 0.7 to 1.5 mmol. During the day, my carbs are less than 20 grams. Is the level of ketones significant to the amount of fat loss, and it is indicative of body fat being burnt or fat in the diet?
Those keto sticks that you pee on or you can test your saliva with are very inaccurate, depending on what time of day it is, when you take it, when your last meal was. don't go by that. If you're eating no carbs or you're eating less than 40 grams of carbs a day and you know you're in ketosis because your brain feels good, you have good energy, don't worry about those keto sticks. They don't indicate anything. They're super inaccurate, first of all, and your levels of ketone body production don't have any, I guess you could say, analogy to how much body fat you're burning.
Let's go to Jacob Hulk 777. Hate this show so much. I'd rather run behind a horse for an hour of cardio than watch. I know that every prep is a little different from the previous one due to muscle gains, hence increased metabolic activities. What is the best way to make sure you're getting adequate nutrition for growth and maintenance before the 12-week cut starts?
In other words, off-season wise, they're referring to?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a good ratio is 1.5 grams of protein per pound that you weigh. So for a 200-pound man, that would be 300 grams of protein a day. At least for men, for women, like 0.5 gram of fat per pound that you weigh. For a 150-pound woman, it would be 75 grams of fat. For a man, I'd go up to almost 0.75 grams of fat per pound that you weigh. So that's a little bit more fat in your diet. And then, carbohydrate intake, I always base on what the person's metabolic needs are. I usually start out at about 1 gram per pound that they weigh. If a guy weighs 200 pounds, we start with 200 grams of carbs. And then I titre it up and down depending on, how fat or how much weight they need to gain. Remember, carbs are just a fuel source. So they're not as relevant as the protein and fat content. If you follow that formula, and once again, this is just a generalization template, you should be more than adequately prepared for when you start dieting.
Let's go to, we're going to stay on the Instagram page and go to It's Akin93. Hi, Dave. I'm going to start with my cut next month, and I would like to use ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin ECA to improve my fat loss. My question is, if I use ECA stack, would it cause muscle loss even though I'm consuming enough protein?
No, it shouldn't. As long as you're not overdoing the stims, I think that you should be fine. The problem with stimulants are, if you take too many of them, they stress the body out. And when you stress the body out, you produce a lot of cortisol. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone that can break down muscle tissue. Taking a little bit of ephedrine caffeine in the morning to get yourself going, and maybe even a little in the later afternoon, is not gonna put you in a catabolic state necessarily, unless you're drinking 16 cups of coffee with that. So you got to figure out. The problem is a lot of people take the ephedrine caffeine because they want the stimulation, not because they're trying to get the caffeine effect from it. So once again, if it's used therapeutically, you'll get a nice effect from it. If it's used because you're a stim junkie, you're probably going to have issues with it.
Let's go to Colombian_physique. Hello, Dave. I hate this show so much that I would rather go to the Olympia expecting Kai Green to be there and then be told by Officer Farah that his Kai is not going to be able to compete due to politics as he tries to steal more clients backstage and calling everyone who accuses him of trying to steal clients gay. My question is, how long can one stay on T3 without shutting down natural T3 production? Also, are you a fan of blasting and cursing?
Well, I don't know what blasting and cursing is, but as far as the T3 goes, I mean, ostensibly after the first shot of test or the first pill you take of T3, you've already started shutting down your body. So the T3 production in your body will always be suppressed a little bit when you're on T3. Now, assuming your T3 has been suppressed because maybe you're taking clenbuterol or something else, adding a little T3 might be fine. But once you start getting into dosage of 25, 50, 75 micrograms a day, you're suppressing your natural production somewhat. And that's not a problem because the thyroid hormone or the thyroid gland works on a nice, simple feedback loop. If there's T3 present, it stops producing T3. If there's not enough T3 present, it upregulates and starts producing T3 again, or T4, I should say, which then converts to T3. So the thyroid gland is a real simple feedback gland. And once again, when you stop you taking your T3, assuming you wean off slowly, you'll start producing again. So I wouldn't worry about that. That's one of the few glands that you shouldn't worry about. Now, a lot of people tell me, I took thyroid hormone and I screwed my thyroid gland and I got to take it for the rest of my life. And I've said this before too. Most people who are find out that they're hypothyroid, low thyroid after doing a contest diet, even if they've taken thyroid or not. Usually it's been happening the whole time. They just didn't know about it until they went for the blood work and checked. So don't be surprised. There's a certain percentage in every population that's going to have thyroid issues, and that includes the bodybuilding world as well. And I don't see that many cases of it. I see probably the same amount of percent that you would see in the normal population. And so don't get scared by that.
We're going to take one more, and this is going to come from our YouTube channel. It's from Tariq Sacic. Hi, what is your advice for acne and clear skin while on cycle? All pro bodybuilders have clear skin. What is their secret? High doses, GH, good pharma labs, and quality oil, or something else?
Well, it's not the oils and the testosterone and all the steroids that cause you to break out, which, despite what people think. Some people rid their bodies of toxins through the skin. Okay, that's how they get rid of wastes. I happen to be that. A lot of Italian people are like that, and they tend to be very prone to acne. Okay, so a lot of people get rid of the waste in their body by dumping it into the stomach. Those people get a lot of acid reflux if they get a lot of toxins build up. And then there's other people that get rid of their toxins by storing them in their fat cells. These are the people that you find have resistant fat reserves. It's hard to get rid of certain levels of fat. Some men have it resistant fat on their lower back. Some women have it on their hips and thighs. And so people who have bad acne, okay, it's usually an indication that the body is releasing toxins through the skin. Now, when you take, obviously, anabolic steroids, it upregulates this ability to get rid of toxins through the skin. Also, you got to remember, high DHT levels, dihydrotestosterone, which is caused by a 5-alpha reductase conversion of testosterone into DHT, can also irritate acne. Now, what a lot of athletes do is they go on a steroid cycle and they take an estrogen blocker, or aromatase inhibitor. So they block the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. But what they don't do is deal with the DHT. So when you block testosterone to estrogen conversion, more of it converts to DHT. So what I used to find was when I would take Arimidex, I would get worse acne breakouts. And I didn't realize it until I put 2 and 2 together and I realized what was happening. When I started taking a DHT blocker like finasteride, even saw palmetto to a certain degree, which you can get in our Testalize product, you'll notice your acne decreases a little bit. But for people who have really bad flare-ups and it doesn't stop, if you take some Augmentin, which is an antibiotic that's kind of very specialized towards skin bacteria, even at 1,000 milligrams a day with food, you'll notice that your skin will clear up. The problem is you can't take it indefinitely. So when you stop taking it, sometimes it'll come back. If you have real bad cystic acne that just will not go away, and look, you intend on taking steroids for the next many years, you might want to try Accutane, which is a cure for acne. It shrinks the sebaceous glands permanently. I did a course of that in my life in my early 20s. It definitely helped. Didn't get rid of my acne completely, but it got rid of those big, nasty, painful, ones that look really disgusting and leave red marks and stuff like that. So once again, it's a multi-tiered approach. Also, you want to wash your skin a lot, okay? Take 2 showers a day in the morning and before you go to bed. Use Dial soap. Dial soap worked wonders for me, and make sure you change your pillowcase at least every 2 days. So I would sleep on the pillowcase on one side, I'd flip it over, sleep on the other side, and then the third day I would change it religiously. And that will keep your skin and your back much clearer. Also, change the sheets in your bed. I know a lot of guys that you don't change your sheets ever. Change the sheets. You got to be clean. If you're prone to breaking out, you got to be clean.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Real young Kobe Bryant. Email us, sid@speciesnutrition.com. You will win Neutralize by Species Nutrition. This was a lot of fun. We'll be back next week with a regular half-hour episode of Ask Dave. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. You will never miss any of our videos or shows. For Johnny Styles, Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from all of us here at RxMuscle.com.
Ho, ho, ho!